So today is Teachers' Day, so I wish you all a very happy Teachers' Day. And I am lucky to have so many teachers among us today. And I really respect my teachers. And my mother was also a teacher. She was the principal in Simla, and then she was the district education officer. And after that, she became the deputy director of education. Then she retired from Simla. And from the very beginning, in the childhood, we were taught so many things by our teachers, and our parents are the first teachers, and then our teachers, they teach us everything we learn in the school, in the college, in the medical schools, in the various universities, and after that, I believe the learning keeps on going throughout your life. In medical science, we say that once you stop learning, that is the beginning of your end. So, if you continue to learn throughout your life, then you will never get old. And you must have seen that some people who have the habit of reading newspaper and going to the library, so their mind remains alert even when they are very old. Every person should make this a point that you should never stop learning. And you can learn not only from your teachers, like we learn from our colleagues. And as a doctor, I've learned so many things from my staff and from my patients. So I think the maximum things I've learned are from my patients. So when I started my career, I did my MBBS from Simla. I did my schooling from St. Edward Simla. We had very nice teachers, and I'm really grateful that they taught me so many things, and they taught me, apart from what we learned from the books, they taught us to remain humble, to respect people, to remain compassionate, and to care about the society, and to give back to the society what we have got from there. So we continue, I'm trying my best to maintain all those ethics, and after doing my MBBS from IGMC Shimla, then I moved on to PGI, and then I did my MS and MCH from PGI, and after that we had very good teachers in PGI. So I spent 6 years, my first 3 years for MS and the next 3 years for MCH. So I got the admission in continuity, and PGI is a very renowned institute. So I learned not only to treat patients, operate patients, I learned how to take care of patients. Like we were just talking with ma'am that she gave me examples of many patients who were treated in PGI, and we used to arrange medicines for them from Seva Bharati and Red Cross, and there was a Rotary Club which used to donate for the patients, and we tried our best that nobody should go without treatment. So whether he's a rich person or a poor person, doesn't make any difference. So you have to, these are also learnings which we learn from the society and from our teachers, as well as from our patients also. So after that, I got selected for joining as a permanent assistant professor in PGI, and then I joined the job. And I thought probably I would retire from here because it was a comfortable job. We used to get vacations 1.5 months in the summers. So first time I got vacation, I was like for 2-3 days I was very happy. But after that, like I started missing the hospital. Because during my residency, like sometimes we were in the hospital for almost a week. I was staying in the hostel, and there was not enough time to even go to the hostel, which took just 5 minutes. But always we were taking care of the patients, and day and night we were like living in the hospital. Sometimes for 6 months we never used to cross the gate of PGI. So it was a great learning experience because you never felt tired. The only time we relaxed was like in between 2 surgeries when the anesthetist takes away the patient, and then the next patient is wheeled in, so they take some time to anesthetize the patient. So that was the time we used to rest our head against the wall and sit on the floor and take rest. And then they used to say, patient is ready, and then again we used to start. So that was the kind of residency training we had. And then when we were posted in emergency, we used to get a break of 10 minutes. So there was one bed in the junior doctor's room. So we used to go, there were around 10-12 residents. So everybody used to squeeze on that bed and for 10 minutes rest. And there was not any chance of going to sleep or anything. We just used to chat and then go back. So one day, one of my colleagues, he said that we are running around every day, we are doing so many odd jobs. So why don't we hire a servant? So if he will do all the jobs for us, and then we can relax and we'll do only the medical part. So then I told them that that's a good idea. But after the end of 3 years, like they might give the degree to the servant. So later on, many years later on, like I saw that movie, 3 Idiots. So they had the same idea, like they hired a person and he worked for them and then he got the degree. So that is the kind of life, the learning continues. Like many things we just learn from observing. So we were told that mind doesn't, like eyes don't see what mind doesn't know. So if we don't know a particular thing, we will not notice it. So that holds true for the patient also. Like once we see a patient, like everybody wants to go to a good doctor. Everybody has the same degree, and but still some doctors they are different. Like people they prefer to go. Some doctors they solve the problem of the patient. Some doctors they just keep on seeing the patient, but the problem is not solved. So the difference lies in that if your mind knows and if you observe what's wrong, then you have to listen to the patient, you have to observe the patient properly. So if you observe the patient properly, listen to what he is saying, then only you will be able to understand what is wrong with the patient. Otherwise, everybody is searching the Google, and from the Google you search so many things, and the patient is also getting confused, and the doctor is also getting confused. And nowadays, like most of the people, what they do is, like they get all the tests done and they send on WhatsApp. So you get the reports, but you are not seeing the patient. So one thing is very important, that if you don't see a patient, it's like I tell my patients that suppose you have to marry a girl, and if somebody sends you a photograph, will you marry that girl? So then the patient asks us whether I should get the surgery done or not. So how can you take such a big decision about the life of a patient without actually examining the patient? So we spend 12-13 years of our life just to learn how to examine a patient, how to take a proper history, how to make a diagnosis. And after that, like if you just believe on the investigations, half of the times the reports are wrong. So if you get a test done from one lab and you get the same test done from the other lab, the reports will be different. So if you just keep on treating patients by reports, then half of the diagnosis will be wrong. So basically, this is what we learn from our teachers and from our experience, that we have to analyze things and we have to always be observant. So if we are not observant, if we don't examine our patients, sometimes patients they say that we went to a doctor but we were not satisfied. So the reason behind is that if the doctor doesn't listen to the patient's problems, if the patient is not examined properly by the doctor, then it is very difficult to satisfy the patient. And if you are not able to satisfy the patient, then it is very difficult to treat the patient. Because most of the treatment that is not done entirely by the doctors. And whatever kind of treatment we are practicing in India now is interventional based. Like we do particular test and then we find the report and then we say you need this treatment. patient takes the treatment, goes home and think that everything is fine. So actually that is a wrong way of doing the treatments. So actually keeping all this in mind, and when we had various experiences, like I got selected for National Health Services UK to join the National Health Services in England in 2001. But I didn't prefer to go because I wanted to serve my own country, and because there's so many patients here who need our services. After that, 2-3 times I got job offers from Australia, and then I went to US. I worked in 2 big hospitals. Then I went to Germany. Worked in the biggest cardiac center in Europe. I learned so many things. I worked in robotic surgery and I worked in minimal invasive surgery. So I tried to learn all those techniques from, they were very good, excellent teachers. And most of the teachers actually in medical field, like you can't teach like in school. You can't teach the ABCs. You just give a guideline that this is a patient and now you do. These are things that you need to do. And then they just, when you go wrong, then somebody will check you that this is not the way to be done. So that is how the learning goes. And good teachers, they inspire the students to do better and better. And some students, they really put in their best efforts, and they are better than their teachers. So that is how medical field keeps on evolving from time to time. And another thing, like very important, that we keep the database of all my patients. So every surgery that I do, every patient that I see in the OPD, before surgery or after surgery. So I keep a database of all the patients. More than 10,000 patients I have operated till now. So I've learned so many things from the database, because when we analyze the database, we come to know that I used to do a particular surgery in a particular way, and then I see the outcome that after this thing is happening, then I think, why this thing is happening? So can I do better? Then I think of ways how to do it in a better way. And then when we do in a better way, in a different way, and then we again put down the data, then we analyze that suppose we did 1000 surgeries by this way, and then what was the outcome. So then if the outcome is better, that means you have detected a new technique. So that's how we find new techniques and then we publish. Like she was mentioning that I have so many publications. So many of them, they were born out of the curiosity, because sometimes you find you are doing a surgery and then you find that there's something which has not been read before or not seen before. So many times we do it in a different way. So then on the moment, like that very moment, you have to decide what to do. You don't have the time. Like you can't go home and read and search the net and then come back. So you have operated the patient, open the chest, and then you have to decide what to do. So sometimes it is totally different, like what you had diagnosed, like all the reports were showing something, but when you open up, then something different is there. So you have to decide there and then. So many times I did certain things which were like different from what were routinely being done. So sometimes teachers also used to get annoyed that why you have done it like this. I'll give you an example. I was in PGI, I was just a fresh assistant professor, and my head of department, he had gone abroad, and my senior consultants, like he had gone for a vacation. So I was alone in the department, and I got a call from the emergency that there is a patient and he had a stab injury. Like he had been stabbed here and he was bleeding profusely, and he had packed it with roller gauze, and patient was like blood pressure had fallen and was collapsing. So I had to take the patient immediately for surgery. And then On the way to the operation theatre, like we had a CT room, so I went to the CT room and talked to the resident there. Can you just put a dye into his artery and just take a few cuts so that I know whether, because this part, the knife can hit so many organs. It can injure the heart, it can injure the brain, blood vessel, aorta, it can injure the liver. So bleeding can be from anywhere. So if you have to operate for the liver, then you have to make a different incision. If you have to operate on the aorta, you have to make a different incision. And if you have to operate on the heart, then you have to open the chest from above. So if you make a wrong incision and then patient is gone by that time. So I thought it will take just 5 minutes and we did that. So when I saw the CT, I couldn't find where the bleeding was because it was packed with the roller gauze. But I saw a thin ring of air inside the pericardium. Means the heart is covered by a membrane which is called pericardium. So inside the pericardium there was air. So air cannot enter the pericardium unless there is an opening in the pericardium. So immediately I took the patient to my OT, opened the chest, and then we repaired the heart. But that time surgery used to be done on like pump, like for a heart surgery you have to stop the heart, you have to put the divert the circulation to an artificial machine, and then while you were doing the surgery on the heart is stopped, and then after the surgery is over, then you again restart the heart. So for doing that procedure, like we had to tell the patients to get all the things from the market. They had to buy the things from the medical stores, and then we can start the surgery. But he was a young boy and a student, and he had no money, and there was nobody with him. So we had no option like to wait till he gets the things ready. So I just opened the chest, knowing that I don't have a backup. So I thought maybe I can do something. So I repaired the heart on a beating heart, and then when the heart was beating, we repaired the heart, and after that, like I didn't have anything to close the chest. So I could do the surgery, I could repair his heart, but there was nothing to close the chest because we need steel wires. So then I called up one of my perfusionists. He was a very old fellow and he knew lot many things about the department. So I asked him that we have done this thing and now you tell us how to close the chest because we don't have the wires. So then he told that there was a box on the top almirah, and then he said that if you open the box, there will be few pieces of wires, because when we cut the wires, so few pieces are there, so maybe he had preserved those pieces in that antibiotic solution. So then we took that wire from there, so took 3-4 cut pieces, and then I closed the chest. And after that, patient survived, and next day, like, the entire newspaper was covered with the beating heart repaired by. Thank you so much. So